Hi, and welcome to this second lecture. And today we are going to go through the topic to be a professional as a teacher in higher education. To be a professional as a teacher in higher education demands that you have pedagogical qualifications. My favorite professional in this field, in the field of pedagogy for higher education, is Martin Stigman. In his dissertation, he classifies the qualifications the teacher in higher education must have and develop. So first of all, pedagogical qualifications. A teacher needs to develop as a university teacher over the years and have student-centeredness. Stigman asked, he raised a question, is it this way of working, that student-centeredness, is it a prerequisite for student learning or not? The teacher should have also institutionalized learning. It's about the conditions and possibilities of communication. Also, the pedagogical practice of supervision. Supervision from the beginning, very beginning, up to the dissertation level, in different levels, so to say. Qualification also is regarding examination. It's about examination and grading. You should know well grading, the grading system, how to assess, what to assess, a good knowledge of the learning outcomes, goals. You should learn your student information search. You should made it yourself all the way. And read new comings, new findings in the research field, in your specific field, for example, and learn about evaluation. What is the critical points in your course or in your subject? So, regarding the pedagogical qualification, of course, to become a teacher, you should demonstrate pedagogical skill and suitability. It's required, how to say, among other things. I used to bring examples from Swedish universities because it's my field of sphere of experiences. But to become a teacher at for example, at a Swedish university or any kind of university applies to employment as a professor, assistant professor, lecturer, assistant lecturer, and other teaching categories. This applies when you apply, so you should demonstrate your pedagogical skill and suitability. You should, in this way, show the connection between research and education. And applicants must have proven ability to deliver scientific teaching. It must be based on the scientific base. You should also demonstrate your pedagogical competence and develop it over the years, almost all the time. Teachers' pedagogical competence can be developed in several different ways. Most universities today, all over the world, offer doctoral students and potential teachers a training program that will provide qualifications for employment as an assistant lecturer or senior lecturer. For example, like a little course we conduct by this now, but in more formal way. In certain areas, there has been and is a combined change in the organization of education and teaching, and the teaching of teachers. For example, we can have the introduction of case methodology and problem-based learning. These are just two examples of this, just to name some. Documentation and administration, of course, it's very important. As in every work, but most important in our work, because we grade and give them exam. For certain employment schemes at Swedish higher education institutions require that an applicant for a position must have compiled a pedagogical portfolio of qualifications. Of course, you recognize the term portfolio. It has been used internationally in higher education for a couple of decades. But traditionally and historically, it has been used in schools for juniors, in primary school, secondary school, upper secondary school. Peter Seldin, as a Swedish scientist, was one of the former, and his texts have had a great impact on pedagogy world over, especially using of portfolio method. Portfolio is used both in secondary school and higher education nowadays to refer to a collection of more or less independent work that students do during their studies. The collection of these works is, if the collection is done systematically and with a progression of studies, so it makes it possible to follow a student's development from the beginning of the education to its end. Back to the requirements for to be employed during the application. So other employment regulations specify specific headings under which pedagogical qualifications should be reported, demonstrated in some way, for example, number of teaching hours, but it's not so internationally symbolized as a formula. It can be different. Well, qualifications can be made, describe the course. Every teacher should demonstrate this base skill. It's basic and unconditionally everyone should know it. Describes the course based on the syllabus, based on the course objectives. So first of all, ask yourself, which are these? Which are these objectives? Did the syllabus state how these objectives would be achieved? Did the syllabus state anything about how the teaching was intended to be conducted, other than in general terms? How was the syllabus interpreted? So it's basic questions you should give to yourself and work after that. How was the syllabus interpreted? Can be interpreted. Very important question for discussion, analyze of it, reflect over it, and analyze it. Interpretation. What concepts were important in the syllabus? What was it that the student absolutely had to learn during the course? What skills would be specifically trained during the course? Were these skills generic or specific ones? What assessment was made of the students' conditions for following the course? Was the literature given adequate the prescribed literature. If not, in which way and what you can do. Is the literature only covered parts of what was necessary to achieve the course goals? Was this supplemented with content, perhaps in the form of lectures, labs, or exercises of some kind? These questions just some to name how you can reflect regarding the interpretation and implementing of the syllabus. Every teacher should be able to report on the planned course schedule and focus on the red thread in the course. What we mean by red thread is connection between goals, content, teaching efforts, and working methods, exercises or tasks, the students' expected own work, and finally the examination. So the red thread between all these parts of the quality. On what assumptions about how students will best absorb the course content is course design based? So please remark that here it's desirable to clarify which pedagogical philosophy that your view on knowledge has guided the course design. Considerations about how students acquire knowledge, absorb or acquire knowledge and skills, and about the teacher's role and task in connection with the implementation of the course are very crucial in this. Report on the concrete implementation is also based on the schedule, instructions to the students, time allocation, and other factors. Pay attention that the actual implementation may not always match what was planned, So state why it did not happen as planned. And of course, the main question, how was the examination conducted? Show how the examination related to the objectives of the course, the content of the course, and the students' abilities. So do a real analysis of it. What was the outcome of the examination? What can the outcomes tell for you, reveal for you? Why did some students fail the exams, for example? Pay attention that the current grading system is goal related. In order to know whether the goals of a course have been achieved, it's necessary to work with the grading criteria, and keep in mind that grading criteria cover both a certain content and the quality of the acquisition of this content. Reflect over the analyze outcomes of the course evaluation. These questions can help you. What was the course evaluation highlight? What would the course evaluation highlight? Does the course evaluation provide any information about the students' own efforts during the course, for example, in the form of preparations for the seminars, laboratory sessions, or other exercises? Does the course evaluation provide any information about how well prepared the students were for teaching sessions based on their own activity? Can anything in the course evaluations shed light on the outcome of the examination? And of course, keep in mind that the outcome of a course evaluation is rather uninteresting and meaningless if it's not related to a specific course with a specific structure. So it must be related to a specific course with its specific structure. Otherwise, you can't do any analysis and draw any conclusions. So avoid presenting course evaluations out of context. Also keep in mind that the teacher cannot be responsible for everything related to teaching. Your students are adults. They apply for higher education and participate in higher education at their own responsibility. Well, what conclusions can be drawn? What conclusions are drawn regarding the organization of the course when it is given again, when you conduct it next time, for example? Does any information need to be passed on to the next course? Next time you give exactly the same course. Would you like to keep exactly the same structure, or add something, or take off something, complement with something, or reformulate, or etc.? So what was the plan for feedback to the students and the head of department or director of studies on this outcome, and how has the feedback taken place? Well, in the beginning, I mentioned that the teachers should develop in this way in their teaching skills as educated high, university and high level, as a university teacher all the time. And this concerns mainly 4 central components. 4 central components of teaching which are important, may be important for university teachers to reflect on, are your own attitude, how you problematize the content of teaching. It's crucial that we do it, problematization, how we formulate challenging goals. We should we should reflect and express some challenging, what is challenging in our work, to conduct the course in its best form, and giving feedback. So these 4 factors are essential. They are essential for teachers to reflect on in order to create a good learning environment. Well, first of all, I said your teacher's own attitude. So my favorite academics is scholar is Shiflet. Already in 1970s, in his study, he emphasized that the attitude towards the students and the teaching is more important than methods we use and technology we use. And further, Sheffield also believes that the most important task for the teachers is to stimulate students to become active in their learning on their own terms. Yeah, well, on their own terms, how can we know it? So a question to think about. You can find more examples in Sheffield's book, Teaching in the University is No One Way. Another scholar, the Swedish scholar Hedin, also touches on the value of teachers. So 30 years later, discusses the same subject, active issue. It's about attitude, of course. So Hedin showing on the value, talking about the value of teachers showing respect for students by being open to their concerns and integrating with them. So showing being a real person, who students dare to question and who dares to admit their mistakes and shortcomings. all of us can have mistakes, can admit mistakes and have shortcomings sometimes, but it's important that we admit them, we see them, we recognize them. Yeah, if you would like to learn more about how to can handle them, so read please Hedin's book, High Level Learning, Ideas from Students, Teachers, and Educational Research to Support the Evaluation of University Teaching. The second component, very essential component in our work is problematizing. It's central, of course, and important for university teachers to reflect on. Problematizing teaching is characterized by an interaction between adapting, wondering, and questioning teacher and student. The teacher bases his teaching or her teaching on real questions and problems to which he or she does not know the answers. Not before the interaction, of course. This type of teaching is based on maybe anecdotes, personal experiences, case studies with a connection to reality. And this type of teaching can stimulate curiosity and motivation in students. Would you like to learn more? Please read Ekman's book, Lecture as a Pedagogical Phenomenon. Yeah, more from Ekman and problematizing, like Ekman, Freya emphasizes that the educator's role is to propose about the codified existential situations in order to help the learners arrive at an increasingly critical view of their reality. Very interesting book, which I warmly recommend to read. It's a chapter in the book by the editors Jarvis, 20th Century Thinkers in Adult and Continuing Education. According to Frey, so teaching is not about imposing the teacher's point of view on the students, as you met in the quotation, but it's about critically examining and problematizing reality as such. At the same time, it's important to point out that problematizing, challenging teaching should not be contrasted with prescriptive teaching, establishing teaching, which we traditionally call for normative teaching. The different forms are justified in different contexts and should be seen as complementary. It should be only complementary. For example, normative teaching may be appropriate when introducing a field, when basic facts are to be presented. However, as a teacher, you can ask yourself critically how challenging you have the courage to be and how problematizing you have the courage to be. Yes, so challenging as a third central concept. It's important for the university teacher to reflect on, of course, and its importance is primarily regarding formulating them for others, your co-workers, your prefect, your dean, etc. Here, it's important that the teacher finds a reasonable level. That is, the learning objectives are neither too difficult nor too easy. So you reason of this. With increased heterogeneity among students, and by heterogeneity I mean here their background, for example, social background or identity, ethnical background, etc., experiences and prior knowledge. This can be a complicated task for teachers. Even age can be different. Different backgrounds. So in our modern time, when we have more globalization, more internationalization in our schools, so we meet more and more challenging. In my next lecture, I am going to give more information about feedback, not only as information, but something I would like to, to draw your attention more to. So good luck. See you.